What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you 5 of the games that I reviewed this year that were the most fun to play in terms of all of the games that I reviewed this year. On that note, I actually reviewed about 30 games roughly, and I plan on ranking all of them in a separate video. But these 5 were just games that I had the most fun with, and while I do find really deep RPGs like Wrath of the Righteous to be the most satisfying games to play, oftentimes I find that games with a shorter gameplay loop that's a little more action-focused tend to be more, generally speaking, fun. So with no further ado, let's jump right into this. First and foremost, we have Prey. Prey I reviewed this year because I heard it was incredible, actually. Everybody who had actually played it said it was really good, so I decided to jump in, try it, do a review for myself, and unsurprisingly, I agreed. It was actually a fantastic game. There are some negatives here and there, as with every game I'm going to cover here, but you can watch the reviews if you want to hear about that. But the gameplay loop of Prey, and fighting off the mimics who can transform and have all these crazy powers, plus you get to actually navigate space in a sort of spacewalk situation, which was also very, very cool. But mostly I enjoyed Prey simply because it was just fun to play it as like a run and gun, blow up these mimics and other types of Typhon monsters with a more action-focused build, which is what I went for the most part. Because you can play Prey a few different ways, but the most fun that I had with it was to play it as like a run and gun with the shotgun and all of the Typhon powers going. And that combined with the really cool narrative of Prey, and it was just a really great experience. Now, next on the list we have Biomutant. Now, I talked a bit about Biomutant in another video a couple days ago, and while I don't think the RPG mechanics of the game are particularly amazing, it is nonetheless a very unique game, but most importantly, I think the combat of it, that is to say I believe it's called Wung Fu, kind of martial arts style mixed with all these crazy gadgets that your character is building and all these just like nonsense vehicles that you can ride around, some of which will actually do damage to enemies as well, just made for a ton of fun. And again, while none of it is particularly like deeply engaging, it's hard to argue that going around and smashing things in a robot isn't kind of hilarious. So, third on our list, we have Deathloop. Deathloop is made by the same studio that made Prey, which is a big reason I decided to try it out, but I didn't play Deathloop until a few months after its release, just because that's when I got around to it. But I really enjoyed Deathloop because they kind of made more ways to capitalize on the playstyle that I liked from Prey, which was that run and gun. Deathloop allows for a lot more of that, with more weapons to support it, as well as abilities, some of which have been seen in other Arcane Studios games. But using your slab powers, which is what they're called in Deathloop, and just the nature of it being a loop-style game, allowing you to go through the same areas and kind of set up kills in a variety of ways, sort of kind of Hitman style, combined with all the powers and fun guns you get, the minute-to-minute gameplay of Deathloop is pretty fantastic. And while it does have a few problems here and there, the actual minute-to-minute gameplay of running and gunning is a blast. For number 2, we have Fallen Order. Now, Fallen Order is a great game, but probably my single favorite thing about it is the ability to use the Force to just chuck enemies off of ledges. That absolutely never got old to me. There's a bunch of other stuff as well, like in terms of like lightsaber styles and just like really action-focused combat, which is a lot of fun to engage with, but hands down, the absolute most fun that I've probably had all year, just like instant gratification wise when it comes to video games, is in Fallen Order picking up enemies and chucking them off the sides of ledges with the Force, because it is hilarious and it never fails to make me laugh. And then number 1 on this list, and while the rest of them were fairly comparable, this one in particular absolutely takes the cake, and that is Maneater. So in Maneater, you play the role of a shark, starting as a baby shark and, eventually up to some giant mutated monster. Now, Maneater is a game that is very simple in design, because at the end of the day, you're a shark, you're eating stuff, but they made it a little more interesting by taking it to the extreme. So you can mutate your shark, which will allow you to behave in ways that sharks absolutely cannot. And probably my favorite bit about this was getting the mutations that allow you to stay above water for longer, which means you can jump onto the beach and just absolutely massacre people as a giant 30-foot shark. Now, there are also a lot of other fun things about Maneater, such as the ability to fight other marine life in sort of boss fights, fighting fishermen, being hunted by people trying to take out the killer shark. But the probably best highlight of the game for me was the missions that would have you jumping on beaches in ways that sharks absolutely could not, but if they could, it would be beyond terrifying, but jumping on those beaches and just ripping people to shreds. And it's hard to deny how just very humorous that is. Nonetheless, there you go, guys. 5 very fun games that I reviewed this year. Hope you enjoyed it. By all means, let me know what fun games you guys played this year down below. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I hope you yourself had a fun-filled year despite everything going on in the world. But regardless of any of it, thank you. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.